Welcome to Over the Line. I'm your host, Campbell Nana, and this is a podcast all about hockey, news, predictions, fun facts, interesting stories, and whatnot. I have put off this podcast due to work, due to not having the courage to put myself out there in the podcasting world again. I had a podcast during COVID. I thought about, putting out content for other stuff during a time of need and when sports wasn't right. I stopped doing it because I didn't realize there was a need for myself to continue to have that motivation and drive to put out episodes of interview with fellow peers of mine about sports and whatnot. But Over the Line, the name of it came from a group assignment project during my senior year of college where I took a podcast class. It was pretty interesting. I wanted to do so well in that class, and I got an A for the course because I was committed to talk about what I love, and what I love is sports. But hockey is at the top of my list. I love baseball too, but hockey is number one for me. When I go to a hockey game, I just envision myself being behind the bench or being in a broadcast booth at the press box level, watching, taking notes, observing what I see. Heck, I even do that as a sports fan when I'm in my seats. And I cheer for my team, but I see stuff on the ice that many people don't see as well. I'm kind of, I would call myself savant, I guess you would say, with my hockey knowledge that I have and, debating other certain stuff with fellow peers of mine as well. And I take that into personal consideration because hockey is my favorite sport. I hopefully want a future in that sport as well. And now I'm on a microphone recording and talking to you, the people, hockey fans in general, about this great sport played on a sheet of ice where you have to use wooden or composite sticks to put a frozen black disc into the back of a net. The pageantry of hockey itself is just one of the most greatest experiences I've had throughout my life so far. A little bit about myself. I grew up in New Jersey. I attended my first New Jersey Devils hockey game 15 years ago, and I played hockey when I was a little boy, and I stopped a couple years back due to high school and college commitments. My hometown team is the New Jersey Devils. I am from the New York metropolitan area where, of course, you have the Rangers and the Islanders. But if you go up to upstate New York, of course, you have the Sabres as well. And then, of course, if you go west, Flyers, and even more west, you have the Penguins. The Devils are my team. Gravitated towards the Devils because of two certain people, one of them being Zach Parise, who scored the first goal of the game of the first ever Devils game I went to. That was against the Florida Panthers. And, of course, legendary Hall of Fame goaltender Martin Brodeur. That's enough for me. Let's talk a little bit about the podcast itself. Over the line, of course, over the goal line. It's simple as that. News, predictions, and whatnot that'll be coming in the later parts of some episodes, but I just wanted to give a little spiel about what this podcast will be about. I'll deep dive into some news as well. Now, I wanted to break down some free agents and some big signings and whatnot. It's been over almost 2 months since the season ended, Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, possibly one of the greatest games I've ever watched on a television. 2-1 win for the Florida Panthers, of course, in Game 7. And you couldn't hate it as a fan. You had one team of Florida Panthers, they lose in the Cup Final the year before to the surging Vegas Golden Knights. And then, of course, on the other side, the lone Canadian team still in the fight, a team that fired their head coach. When you have the two best players in the world on the same line, the same team, and you shake things up a bit, that causes quite a story. And the Edmonton Oilers, what a story it was. My team, the Devils, they got a couple good players as well. Made a couple trades that kind of shook the fan base for a bit. They let John Marino go. Alexander Holtz got traded. Gary Chimie got traded to the Vegas Golden Knights for Paul Carter. The Devils signed Brendan Dillon. The Devils got Brett Pesce for their blue line. And the Devils got Jacob Markstrom. and got the goalie that they wanted, and they traded Kevin Ball, for Jacob Markstrom. So the Devils got their key issues locked up, and they're still to this day have to sign a caliber key component to their forwards. That's Dawson Mercer. One other thing I totally forgot to mention: Sheldon Keefe is the head coach of the Devils, and the Devils have their home opener against newly named captain Austin Matthews and the Toronto Maple Leafs. So would that be a revenge game for Sheldon Keefe? That's what it makes it look like. And I'm excited for that as a fan because I will be attending opening night. I want to dive into some tough news that occurred, the past few days. It's tough to talk about this because it's emotional. Last week, and I'm recording this on Labor Day, so happy Labor Day to all celebrate. Eat some good food while you're off, and those who are working, keep working. It's a good day to work if you're there. To take your mind off. They say the extra weekend, but it's life. Life is life throws curveballs at you, and the curveball that was thrown to the hockey world was a tough one. Johnny Gaudreau, the star left winner for the Columbus Blue Jackets, along with his younger brother Matthew, were hit by a drunk driver near their hometown of Olmans Township, New Jersey, on the eve of their sister Katie's wedding. Both Gaudreau brothers were announced dead. That sent shockwaves to the entire hockey world. You just didn't want to believe that it happened. And I get a little emotional talking about it because his two brothers are great ambassadors for their schools. They both went to Gloucester Catholic, put that school on the map with high school hockey. Matthew played in the minors. Johnny, of course, won a national championship at Boston College, and then got drafted to the Calgary Flames, who had a stellar first 9 seasons for the Calgary franchise and scored one of the most memorable goals in double overtime in Game 7 just a few years ago. And he was just in his second season for the Columbus Blue Jackets. And Gaudreau got a lot of flack for going to Columbus because everyone thought he was going to go to New Jersey or Columbus, for Philadelphia, Grew up a Flyers fan, loving Philadelphia sports as well. It's sad. It is a incident that should have been avoided, but it wasn't because someone decided that they thought it was okay to go behind the wheel while severely impaired. And I've been scrolling through social media. I've been scrolling through X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. I'm seeing a bunch of tributes for Johnny and Matthew. I've seen live donations, of course, to Matty Gaudreau, to his wife Madeline. People buying shirts, making donations, players making donations to the Gaudreau families, and it's tough. It just doesn't feel right. I was texting a friend, and the friend responded back to me saying, "I don't know if I can get over this. It feels like a Kobe Bryant and Gianna reaction." Everyone knows where they were when that helicopter crash happened because you just didn't want to believe it. And this rumor was swirling Thursday night, and people didn't want to go to sleep. You ask yourself, I hope these two guys are okay. I hope they make it. I hope this is all just a rumor, and I hope, he, out of the blue texts the entire, world via social media saying, I'm okay. But when I woke up the next day on a Friday morning, I looked at my phone and I'm seeing friends text me, and I'm watching the TV on, and I see ESPN, and I see that both Johnny and Matthew were announced dead. I was distraught. I felt crushed. I was bummed out because their lives were taken by the most stupidest decision one human being could ever do, is to get behind a wheel while drunk. And it's something I just don't understand how in 2024 this stuff still happens. We have Ubers, we have Lyfts, people are designated drivers, of course, and it's sad. I cried a bit, looking at, these tribute videos. I'm looking at memorials at both Scotiabank Saddledome and Nationwide Arena. And there are no words that I can probably add more into my vocabulary to describe the angst and sorrow of whatnot. Because these two guys were just riding their bikes home from a party. It was the eve of their sister's wedding. I feel for the families that were all supposed to be there to celebrate. I feel for Pedro family, of course, absolutely. And I'm praying for them so much. I'm praying for both Madeline and Meredith, both the wives of Johnny and Matthew. I don't know, man. It's just, I don't want to make this more too negative for the people listening to this first episode, because it's just heartbreaking. And I want, to be an escape for those who just want to, hear my predictions for the upcoming season. Want to hear who I think is going to win this trophy, or who's going to go to the playoffs, or who's going to miss the playoffs, and who's going to win the Stanley Cup. But when something like this unexpectedly is thrown at you throughout, country and throughout the hockey world, you just don't know how to react. And you just have to find some way, somehow, to put a little positivity, think about the good times that, these individuals gave to the sport and for the communities. They called home, try to put on a smile on people's faces who are still in the grieving process. That's something that I hope people could understand, because stuff like this shouldn't happen. It should never happen. Johnny Gaudreau defied the odds of a hockey player. The guy was small. The guy was told, you're too small to play hockey. And when you said with that, okay, I'll score 100 points in a season. I'll win a Lady Byng trophy for being one of the most exceptional people in the sport, around the league, a loving, caring individual from his peers and his teammates as well. It's just who he was. You see videos of him dancing, him giving interviews and, charity work and stuff. And that's what, you want, your child to be. Just a great representation of community person, a heck of an athlete, and someone who just wanted, to prove downers wrong. And that's what Johnny Gaudreau did. That's what he wanted to do, prove people wrong. And he did that. He made the NHL. There's a saying, I believe Marcus Stroman says, he's the pitcher from the New York Yankees. He says height doesn't measure heart. And I think that's a great representation of what Johnny Gaudreau, like his mantra, is. He had a heart of a champion every time he stepped onto the ice, whether he was wearing that red C or he was wearing that cannon on his chest for the Blue Jackets. He was an exceptional human being, and I hate to use this in past tense. I hate it because I wish he should be here. He should be here along with his brother Matthew. It sucks that, life is unfair. It's so unfair. It's just awful. And my heart goes out again to the Gaudreau family. My heart goes out to all of the fans of Johnny Gaudreau from Calgary, Columbus, BC, and then all Gloucester Catholic who went to school with Johnny and Matthew. I'll end with this. Think that Johnny and Matthew are shooting pucks on there right now. And cherish, the time that you have. Remember the good moments. Thank you for listening to this first episode of Over the Line. We'll be back with much more news in the coming weeks. For now, just remember, when you're on the ice, think of number 13. And when you're at the bench, think of number 20. Because you know that they would be watching over you and smiling on their face saying, if I can do it, you can do it. Thank you.